Thank you so much for joining the Northwest Church YouTube channel. If you'd like to follow along with the message today, you can check out the notes linked in the description below. Let's jump into the message.
Today is week 2 of a 3-week series called A Heart Changed by God. Last week, we started with the foundational truth of tithing. Let me encourage you, for any reason you were unable to be here last week, go back and pull that up on YouTube or go to northwestchurch.tv and watch that sermon from last week. There's a powerful illustration in there about tithing, what you give, what's left over. I'd like for all of you to go and watch that if you were unable to be here last week. Here's what we learned. When it comes to tithing, the foundational principle to tithing is this, that God owns everything. Now, you got to get an understanding of that. That is the bedrock. That's the foundation of what the principle of tithing is all about, is that God owns everything and we are simply His managers. So tithe is simply setting aside 10% of our increase as holy to the Lord. Now watch this. God's blessing is on the tithe. God's blessing is on the tithe. I want you to know that God isn't after your money. He's after your heart. But He also understands that if He can get your heart, then guess what? The money and everything else in your life will submit to Him. But again, He's not after your money. I'm not after your money. Northwest Church is not after your money. God is simply after your heart. And tithe is a heart test. That's all it is. This week, we're going to turn our attention to the 90% that we get left over. So again, tithe means a tenth. So a tenth of our increase, it belongs to the Lord. That's the reason why we say we bring our tithe to the Lord. We don't give our tithe. You cannot give something that does not belong to you. So you bring your tithe to the Lord. So 10% belongs to Him. He said, this has already been set aside. This is holy. This is consecrated. This is for me. You get to keep the 90%. And that's what I'm going to focus on today, is because we want to help you manage your 90% better. So how can we be good managers of what God has entrusted to us? And when you think about your finances, do you experience a sense of peace or panic? That's a great question, isn't it? How many times have you ever just woke up in the middle of the night, or maybe you're lying in bed and you're like, oh no, I forgot about that bill. I spent too much money. But then on the other hand, there's been seasons of life, maybe you've experienced the peace of God. And that's what we want to help you with. Wouldn't it be great to live without stress and anxiety of not having enough money? Would you like to retire in a comfortable way, or to be able to give generously to a missions project here at Northwest Church? Well, here's what I know. You can't experience financial freedom, and you don't have to be wealthy to do it. That's a myth. Most people think if I only had more money, then I would have financial freedom. No, it's not about the amount. It's about your attitude. It's about your heart. It's about your habits. Here's what I know. A heart changed by God can experience financial freedom. The first step, it's in your notes this morning, your very first step is, number one, that I've got to define my problem. Define my problem. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 8, here's what the Apostle Paul writes. And God will generously provide all you need. Now, I want you to circle that word need. I want you to highlight that, write it down. Then you will always have everything you, what? Need. Now, watch this. And plenty left over. Why? So you can share with others. So He tells you what He's going to do and why He's doing it. So many times when we think God's going to meet our needs, that means we're going to have bread and water, and we're barely going to be able to get by. We're not going to be able to have a cable television, all those kind of things. And it's just going to be barely enough to get by. No, it's not what Scripture says. He says, I'm going to give you all that you need. And on top of that, you're going to have some left over. Now, why do you have some left over? So you can help others who have need. That word need, here's what it means in the Greek language. It means a perfect condition of life in which no aid or support is needed. Isn't that incredible? That God's going to meet your need in such a way that it will be a perfect condition of life in which no need or support is needed. The key word here is need. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19 says, and this same God who takes care of me will supply all your needs. Now, where do those needs get supplied from? What's the source? From His riches, His glorious riches. Now, that word supply, in the Greek, it means to make full. It means to fill up. So again, God is going to supply all of your needs. He's going to give you more than what you need. He is going to fill you up. Note, this is important. God promises to meet our needs, not our wants. God promises to meet our needs and not what we want. Problem is, oftentimes we struggle distinguishing between our needs and our wants. I mean, guys, has your wife ever said, I need a new pair of shoes? It's not a trick question. Okay, I did this in 8:30 and I had like 3 guys raise their hand. So this is not a trick question. I just want to know, I'm just curious. Now, raise your hand. Nobody's going to get in trouble for this, okay? Has your wife ever said, I need a new pair of shoes? Guys, I want you to raise your hand. Y'all are big chickens. Okay. And the reason they need a new pair of shoes is because they need a new pair to go along with the other 58 pair that they already have in the closet. Am I right? Now, if your wife is like Christy wants a new pair of shoes, and then when she gets her shoes, she's like, Joe, I really don't have a handbag that matches these shoes, so I need a handbag. Then I'm like, okay, baby, I love you. Let's go get a handbag. And then we get a handbag and then the shoes. And she said, it's just not right to have a new pair of shoes and a new handbag without a new outfit. And so it just keeps going. Anybody know what I'm talking about? That's probably going to cost me a new outfit after today. And guys, how often do we say we really need a new car? We really need a new truck, or we need a new boat, or the kids really need a new pair of Nikes. If they don't, then they're going to be made fun of at school if they don't get the new pair. I heard a friend of mine one time, he was a youth pastor, and he said, you know, I grew up, I was really, really poor. We had to wear Reeboks instead of Nikes. Here's what I know. When we buy everything we want, soon we're not going to have enough money to buy what we need. If you buy everything that you want, you will not have enough money left over to buy everything you need. Every day, people attempt to swipe their way to happiness or to impress their friends, and all they get in return is what? Deeper and deeper in debt. Now, I want to show you this because debt in itself is not the problem. It's the result of the problem. So we need to stop pretending and deal with the problem. What is the problem? It's our wants. It's distinguishing between what I want and what I need. And when I buy everything that I want, then I get in debt, and we want to blame the debt. It's not the debt, it's our wants that's the issue. Now, debt should be a great concern for all of us. I mean, all you have to do is look at our national debt today in America. It's downright depressing because we simply spend more money than we bring in. So debt is a problem. I understand that. For Gen Zs, listen to this. This is ages 18 to 26. They have the lowest average of non-mortgage debt. It's a little over $15,000. Non-mortgage debt, that would be credit cards, student loans, personal loans. That's your auto debt, things of that nature. Now, the Gen X, that's ages 43 to 58, carries the most non-mortgage debt of all generations, averaging over $32,000 in non-mortgage debt. Millennials, that's age 27 to 42, they have the highest amount of mortgage debt and are close behind Gen X, watch this, with an average of almost $30,000 in non-mortgage debt. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 7 says, the rich will rule over the poor, and the borrower is simply a slave to the lender. The Message says it this way, the poor are always ruled over by the rich, so don't borrow and put yourself, what? Under their power. And that's what happens when we buy everything we want, then we become a slave to the lender. It's the reason people are working longer hours, taking a second job today in many cases. Why? It's because they want to buy everything they want and everything their kids want. Debt simply makes us a slave to the lender. I want you to take note of this. It is not God's will for His people to be slaves to others. It is not God's will for His people to be a slave to others. Every spending decision is a spiritual decision. Every spending decision is a spiritual decision. Too many times we mortgage our future for instant gratification for today. Now, here are some results of being a slave to the lender. Number one, debt lingers. Have you ever tried paying just the minimum balance due? I dare you, the next time you get your credit card, it'll tell you on there, minimum due, and it'll also give you a little chart. If you pay that minimum that's due, sometimes it will be up to 32 years. Again, you are trapped and you are a slave to that debt. You can't do what you want to do. You can't buy things that you really want to buy. Why? It's because you're still paying off things that you bought yesterday that you thought you wanted. So it never goes away. Number two, debt causes worry and stress. It often causes tension in marriage and relationships. And according to a survey from Ramsey Solutions, fights revolving around money is the second leading cause of divorce in America today. It used to be number one. I don't know what happened there. Number two, first of all, Dave Ramsey said this. This is a great quote. You must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you. Number three, debt is addictive. Now, once you realize how easy it is to swipe that credit card and get what you want, and you get that instant gratification that you get from that, it gets easier and easier. So you want it, and you don't have the money, so you put it on a credit card, you get what you want. It makes you feel good about yourself, and so it just makes it a lot easier. The next time you go to the store, you see something you wanted, you say, well, I'll just use that credit card again. It gets easier and easier, which means the debt continues to pile on top of debt. The next thing is debt results in a loss of opportunity. So why does the Bible say that God's going to give you all that you need, and then there's going to be some left over for what? Meeting the needs of other people. But have you ever wanted to give to someone in need but couldn't? Or wanted to give generously to a missions project here at Northwest Church? You really wanted to give, you have a heart to give, but you know you can't give because you just got too much debt. Now I want to help you with this. I've heard this all my life. People say, you need to live within your means. Have you ever heard that? Okay, I'll talk more about that. Living below your means can lead to financial freedom. Okay, it's living below your means, because if you live within your means, which means if you can afford $500 a month on a car payment, $1,000 a month on a house, then what happens when the refrigerator goes out if you're living within your means? It means you don't have enough money for the unexpected or the unplanned or even the unfair that happens to your life. So I don't say, don't live within your means. Live below your means, and then when the unexpected happens, guess what? Then you're not get buried in debt, and now you're not behind, and you don't spend the next few weeks or months or even years trying to catch up for the unplanned that happened back here. I'm trying to help you. I'm not mad at you today. I want you to have financial freedom in your life. It's distinguishing between a want and a need. It's learning to be content with what God has given us. Paul spoke to his young protege, Timothy, about this very issue in 1 Timothy chapter 6, beginning in verse 6. He says, yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into this world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us what? Be content. But people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Now, when you look this up in the Greek, it's only one word that one word describes the phrase love of money. So it's not like three words in the original language, it's one word. And it's only used this one time that I could find in the entire New Testament. Here's what it means, the love of money. The Greek word means extreme greed. Think about that. Extreme greed. So don't allow your greed for more cause you to give God less. And that's what happens every day with Christ followers. I hear people every day tell me, Pastor, I cannot afford to bring my tithe. I cannot afford to give the missions. And yet they have 2 car payments. They have a house payment. I see your toes when you're in the sand on your vacations. I see, it's why a lot of people don't let me be friends with them on social media. I preach against this stuff. And then I see the Christmas tree, and there's like presents piled up all around the room. It's not like one present or two. It's not that we can't afford to. We choose not to. Let's just get honest with ourselves. It's like, I'm going to give myself what I want. That's more important to me than being obedient to God. I'm going to leave that alone, okay? That's enough. Money is not the root of evil. The love of money, the greed, that's the root of all evil. Because money in itself is neutral. It's neither good or bad. It's a tool. There's not anything wrong with having money as long as money does not have you. So don't allow money to replace God in your life. Don't allow money to replace God in your life. Jesus said, I believe it's in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, he says that no man can serve 2 masters. You can't serve both wealth or God. You're going to have to pick and choose one of these days whom you're going to serve. So money's not the issue. Watch this. Your motive for money is the issue. So a lot of people say, well, the reason I give is because the Lord says He's going to give it back. Well, that is true. If that is your motive, you're going to be limited in how much God's going to bless you. He's already told us that He's going to supply all of our need. There's going to be plenty left over. Why? So you can help others who have need. So you can give generously to missions. So you can give and help other people out. That's the reason He gives us more than what we need. That's good preaching, isn't it? So my motive for giving, yes, is for God to bless me. But I understand the more God bless me, the more I'm going to be a blessing to somebody else. So when you're praying about God bless me, if the intent and the motive is the more I get, the more I'm going to give, the more you're going to get to give. That's good amens. Let's move on. Is your motive to enlarge your kingdom or God's kingdom? When is enough enough? When we're not content to live within our means, we should ask God to examine our hearts and our motives today. A heart changed by God can experience financial freedom. Watch this. I'm all about tools. I'm all about habits. I'm all about this. I'm all about all that. But until your heart has been changed by God, you're always going to struggle with this issue with money. But when my heart gets right with God, the money will get right. Number 2, I've got to develop a plan. Now, before you get ahead, you must first plan ahead. So if you're going to get ahead, you got to plan ahead, because just hoping that you're going to get out of debt, just hoping that you're going to win the lottery, just hoping somebody's going to leave you a lot of money one of these days, most likely none of that's going to happen. So you can't just sit around and hope it's going to happen. You got to come up with a plan ahead. We want to provide you. Last week I said, Northwest Church does not want more from you. We want more for you. We're going to put are you ready for this? We want to provide you with the tools to experience financial freedom, so we have a free gift for you today. Dave Ramsey is one of the most respected voices in helping people take control of their money and their lives as well. So Northwest Church has purchased Ramsey Plus just for you. You ready for this? Now, there's already the QR code. It's going to be up there for a little bit. This includes the Complete Financial Peace University program. It teaches you how to pay off your debt faster. It gives you, watch this, one-on-one coaching session. the Every Dollar Budget Tool, free live stream of events. And there's a lot more to this. It's a $129 value, and it's going to be absolutely free for you and your family for an entire year. Again, we don't want to get more from you. We want to get more for you today. So make sure you scan this QR code. We have coaches here at Northwest Church that I trust to keep your finances confidential, that are not going to show up on Facebook this afternoon. If you want some help in getting out of debt and you're willing to come up with a plan and stick to that plan, we want to help you. So this is not about getting more of your money. This is about you getting your money in order. So we want to help you, and we want to be a blessing to you. So scan that QR code. I think they can sign up, do all of that. We've purchased this, and we're going to continue to. We get a certain number of people who can join this program. If more of you join, we will ante up. We will keep doing this to make sure that anyone and everyone who wants to be a part of this program. Why? Because we want to help you come up with a plan and get out of this. I want you to hear my heart today. This is personal to me. I grew up in extreme poverty. I know what's that like. That's a mindset. That it's a trap. That is a trap of the enemy to keep you there. I want you to know that's not God's plan for your life. I'm not talking about prosperity today. I'm talking about God delivering you from the slavery of debt and the mindset of poverty to help you. So scan the QR code and you can get started. We have provided a plan for you. Now listen, this is so important. This is no different than any other week. I can teach truth, but if you don't apply it, it's not going to help you. So we have a plan for you, and if you don't work that plan, and if you don't stick with it, it's not going to help you. So I love what Norman Vincent Peale said years ago. He said, plan your work and work your plan. I'm always working on plans. Plan your work and work your plan. So when I define my problem, I develop a plan, watch this, to deal with my problem. Because if I don't have a plan to deal with my problem, I'm always going to have a problem. It's free. Finally, I can experience number 3, determined to live with financial freedom. Determined. I really wanted to put that word continue. Determined to continue to live with financial freedom. Go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 8. And God will generously provide all you what? Need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over. Why? So you can share with others what you have left over. Now, watch this. Old habits are hard to break. So if you want to live with financial freedom, you need to become a different person than you are today. If you want to live with financial freedom, you need to become a different person than you are today. You know what I've learned about most people when I talk to them about finances? They want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. If you don't change some spending habits, if you don't allow God to challenge and change your heart, you're going to be this same place 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This works in relationships. This works in our business. This works with our finances. This works in our health. And that's what we want today. We want to do what we want to do and get a certain, it just doesn't work that way. All right. So plan your work ahead. We got to talk about all, I got to finish all this up, okay? So once you experience financial freedom, don't go back to the slavery of debt. How many times do we work, we plan, we do it, and we finally get out of debt only to what? Go back in debt all over again because your heart's not been changed. If you want your habits to change, start with your heart. Don't focus on the habit, focus on the heart. And when the heart gets right, the habits will take care of themselves. Now, you pay a price for financial freedom, but it's much less than what you pay for a lifetime of slavery. So I'm going to close today with 4 questions. You're going to have to write quickly because they only give me a certain amount of time up here. I'm going to give you 4 questions to help you live with financial freedom. You ready? Number 1. Is this obligation of repayment worth the value I receive? Is the obligation of repayment worth the value I receive? I do these things, practice this principle with small things or big things. is the repayment worth the value? There are just some things it's just not worth the value. Do I want it? Sure. Would it be great to have it? Sure. But the repayment of that, the value is just not there for me. So I just say, no, thank you. That new car smell, it wears off fast. And so does the equity. I want to give you something free today. Y'all want something free? I want to show you a chart, okay? Come up with this. Average new car price, $35,358. The average interest rate today is 7.40%. Because I've heard people say this to me all my life. Pastor, I'm going to have a car payment. I'm always going to have a car payment. I'm always going to have a car payment. If you always have a car payment, if that's your mindset, watch this. Your monthly payment is going to be $706.82. The interest paid on that 5-year loan is a little over $7,000. 30 years of interest, it's $42,000. Okay? You say, well, $42,000 to interest, not a lot of money. Okay? Not a lot of money because after all, Pastor, I got to drive a new car because I got to impress all my friends. All right? I want to show you something. Next chart, please. The annual IRA contribution. Watch this. If I put $7,000 into an IRA, the rate of return, and this is on the safe side, 5%. You only get 5% in return. Your monthly payment is going to be $584. Now watch this. You have a choice. You can put $706 in your new car. And when you retire, you're going to have a car. Or you can put less, $584 a month into an IRA, balance of 30 years later with the accrued interest is going to be almost $500,000. I have this saying. You ready for this? You're either paying interest or somebody's paying you interest. You see the difference? So when you go to bed at night, you need to ask yourself, am I paying interest or somebody paying me interest? Because when you can go to bed and somebody else is paying interest for you, you're making money while you sleep. That is a great feeling to have. Other than somebody else going to sleep going, thank you for paying me interest because I'm sleeping better tonight. Every time you borrow, now let me help you with this. Because people say this to me all the time. Well, Pastor, I don't have enough money to pay tithe, and I don't have enough money to put in a retirement fund. If not now, then when? So I say, start today. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll tell you a formula here at the end, okay? What I'm saying is start right now and put something up every check that you get, okay? All right, number 2. Is not having enough to pay for this God's way of saying no or not now? Because if he said, I will supply everything that you need and you will have enough left over to help somebody else, if you don't have enough money to pay for it, could it be God's way of saying no? Or could it be God's way of saying not now? Okay? Number 3, will today's debt hinder tomorrow's freedom? Will today's debt hinder tomorrow's freedom? Don't trade today's freedom for tomorrow's slavery. Here's another freebie. Don't make financial decisions when emotion is involved. I just got to have it. I got to have it. Well, walk around the mall for 20 minutes and then ask yourself, do I still have to have it? Number 4, is this a need or want? Is this a need or is this a want? I came across this. This is so good. The philosophy of the rich and the poor. Are you ready for this? The rich invest their money and spend what is left. The poor spend their money and invest what is left. Be determined and disciplined to live with financial freedom. Now, I'm going to give you my last free tidbit today. Are y'all ready for this? This is a formula that I have lived off since I was 27 years old and I got married. Are y'all ready? Christy and I still live off of this today. We talked about finances in detail before we got married. And I just had a deal that this much goes up every year. Now, everything else, shoes, purse, outfits, it's fine. You can have it all after this. This is important. I have lived my life by this formula. Number one, I pay God. I've always paid God. Above and beyond my tithe, every week, every check, every birthday gift, all those things. You give me money for Christmas, guess what? I'm going to pay tithe off that money. You give me birthday money, I'm going to pay tithe off that money. For you who gave to Nathan's graduation, guess what Nathan did? That's right. He paid tithe off that money. Why? Because that's increase. So number one, pay God. Number two is I've always paid myself. It's in this order, and it has to be in this order. Step number one, I pay God what belongs to Him and more. Step number two, I pay Joe. Every month, every check that I've gotten every month since I got married at 27, I have put something up every single month. Number three, pay everybody else. It's pretty simple. Now, young people, I wish I could just shake you with a holy shake. If you will start out this way, one day you'll be sitting on an island and you'll say, gather around, kids and grandkids. Let me tell you about Pastor Joe. We're going to name this island Pastor Joe's Island. It is that simple. Listen, you say, I can't afford it. You're never going to be able to afford it. It's kind of like if you wait until you can afford to get married. If you can wait to have kids until you can afford it, you're never going to afford it. Pay God, pay yourself, live off the rest. And you will always have plenty. Did I help you today? My heart's been right on this. I've spent too much time. Make sure my heart and motive is right to help you. Would you bow your heads this morning, please?
Thank you so much today for tuning in and checking out the message. We hope you were encouraged. And today, if you'd like to make a decision to become a Christ follower, please contact us. You can do that by simply clicking the link in the description below. And today, if you'd like more information about Northwest Church, or you would like to plan a visit to come visit us in person, you can simply do that by going to northwestchurch.tv. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to connect with you.